Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Common dharmas for the satisfaction of all living beings. Yagas are addressed towards gods, Tarpanam and Sraddham are addressed towards departed ancestors. Should all be done without let. Individual expression of devotion in the form of daily puja, looking after guests whenever they arrive, Vaishvadevam, a yaga done for the benefit of all living beings, were the things done quite regularly by our ancestors. Whether you do these things or not, at least get to know about the fact that this nation's ancient history was full of such activities. You have known many things. You read much about other countries and their past. When it comes to our own country's history, you only know what you have been permitted to know. You should at least know the names of yagas that have been prevalent in this country for thousands of years. You should know the names, why and how they were conducted, if only for the sake of information. Vaishvadevam was one of them. I'll tell you about it. We have a body and look after it with care. By doing so, are you aware as to how we make life miserable for many life forms? We claim with pride that we are keeping our house clean, dirt free, spick and span. On a careful study, we will find that our houses are nothing better than an abattoir. Not one but five butcheries. I am not saying this, but a Dharma Shastram says. What are those five butcheries? They are pan- Panchasuna Grahastasya Vardante Abaraharapsada, namely Kandini, Beshini, Sulli, Jalakumbha, Upakaraha. Whether vegetarians or not, we all use the sweeper and mop with germicidal knife, peeler, mixer, grinder, juicer, heater, micro oven, etc. Earlier, there were much simpler implements in the kitchen. In them, we cut, peel, pare, grind, and boil or fry vegetables and cereals and thus make their life miserable. Nowadays, we use many more implements and germicidals, detergents, repellents, and so on. We use them in the house, in the offices, on the roads, and in the very fields of cultivation. So, it would seem that we have made this whole world into a huge slaughterhouse. Here I have to give answer to an objection raised by non-vegetarians. They ask the vegetarians, similar to the goat, sheep, pig, fowls and fish, your vegetables also have life. Are you not responsible for killing them? Yes, I agree that plants also have life, to which we are being cruel. Yes, plants also have life and feelings. What they do not have is the element of pain. If at all, they have any capability to feel pain, not to the same intensity. This point has been scientifically proved. Moreover, we do not take the life of the plant, but its leaves or fruits or seeds. This is like cutting the hair of human beings in a hair cutting salon. If you consider paddy and such anyhow, they are harvested when they have become dry and finished their living. Even if we do not harvest, they will shortly be falling to the ground. We can make people understand that vegetarian food is better than non vegetarian in another way. Now they prefer only certain varieties of meat. They can have beef, but they detest eating horse meat. During the Second World War, when horse meat was under consideration for being issued to soldiers, this was seriously objected to even by vegetarian soldiers as a poor substitute, being supposed to be issued to their comrades. I have myself said no to issue of horse meat when the matter was referred to me. Now, non-vegetarians prefer meat and beef, falls and fish. But when it comes to eating of human flesh, by some tribes in Africa, they are considered to be despicable, uncivilized, brutal, and they are branded as cannibals. So when they make fun of vegetarians saying, do not the plants that you eat have life, as the animals and birds that we eat? We should reply in turn, yes, when it comes to being cruel to living things, you and we are one. Why don't you catch hold of human beings and eat them? After all, human flesh is also animal flesh only. You are differentiating between other animals and human beings. Similarly, we are differentiating between plant and animal life. That aside, vegetarian food is more suitable for the calm and quiet sattva human qualities that we prefer. Of necessity, unavoidably, we are using kandini, that is arrival manai or knife, and beshani, that is ammi and ural, or grinders made of stone and moved by hand. The third butcher shop is chulli, or the fireplace where the food is cooked. Many insects are victimized by the kitchen fire, intentionally or otherwise. Next one is the jalakumbha or water pot. We just may keep the water filled pot somewhere and an ant may be crushed under it. Maybe you want to keep the water clean and may swat the flies hovering about. Though Jalakumbha does not much deserve to be kept in the category of another butcher's shop. Last one of the Upaskaram is the sweeping brush. Many ants and flies are destroyed by this. With its modern counterpart, the vacuum cleaner, wet and dry. Thus, there are 5 types of butcheries in our households just to maintain this human body. Actually, it is advised that we should not hurt even those animals that hurt us. Here we are making a virtue of uniformly destroying many insects and living things without any partiality. Come to think of it, it is a very sad thing that we have to kill others to live ourselves. Anyhow, these 5 household implements are the unavoidable minimum. We are not intentionally killing. For these sorts of unintended errors, there is a yagna of expiation by the name of Vaishvadeva. This is a yagna with the prayer that all life forms which might have been killed or harmed or in some way troubled by any of our actions may be relieved, benefited, replenished, regenerated, and restored. Now, KTSV adds, for this, a sacrifice of a living animal used to be made in Vaishvadeva, but in the past 6 decades, no sacrifice of living animals has been noticed. Nowadays, a coconut or a pumpkin is sacrificed symbolically. Hinduism permits many in lieu and is ever ready to adjust and accommodate the majority views on any subject. Periwal has not touched this fact in this talk, but he is likely to mention this aspect of sacrifice in lieu somewhere or the other. Bhuta Yagnam is Vaishvadevam. Deva Yagnam is Pujas and Yagas. Manushya Yagnam is Atiti Satkar or guest caretaking. Pitru Yagnam is Tarpanam. Brahma Yagnam is by Brahmins only, involving teaching the Vedas to the next generation, and by other caste people by practicing their hereditary professional duties. These 5 yagnas have been going on unbroken from the time of rishis till as recently as our grandfathers. But in our lifetime, we have the dubious distinction of being responsible for not only discontinuation but preventing the benefits from reaching the subsequent generations. I am listing many things required to be conformed to and complied with. Think about what you are keeping up to and what could have been complied with, and what are the practices going by default. Even if you cannot do all of them, while involved in making a living, you must stick with whatever is within your capacity and time frame to adhere to, and at least sincerely regret not being able to comply with. Small things for the sake of cleanliness of mind. There are many small things that could be useful for cleansing the mind. On the analogy of a stitch in time saves nine, these small things obviate the need for elaborate arrangements later on. For generations, these small dharmas have been adopted on the logic of what is good for my grandfather and my father is good for me too. You only have to take note of how happy and satisfied their life was. These small do's and don'ts can give you the same satisfaction and bliss despite the so called changed circumstances. Not only in big philosophical matters, even in small mundane activities, our forefathers have shown us the way to behave within the family and in a society. For example, relationship and friendship were carefully nurtured and protected. When it came to a marriage or demise, the whole family or community pooled in their resources of funds and materials and got the job done. To everybody's satisfaction, how cultured and noble this was. There was no scope for staging a demonstration of power and prestige as it happens nowadays. To help and not so well to do was the done thing those days. Those who attended the function contributed what they could and thereby reduced the load of the affected person. When many people contribute, each does not have to beat a heavy burden. Small drops make the ocean, but the person receiving will get substantial help. Similarly, if a poor man was to get his daughter married, the whole village came forward to pool in their resources. Earlier on, the difference between the rich and the poor was not so vast. In actual fact, the rich man spent most of his money for his poor relatives and friends. That is part one's dharma. To assist equals was dhanam, and to assist the poor was dharmam. To help a person in need was more beneficial for the giver than the receiver, because the one receiving felt beholden while the giver had the greater benefit of cleansing his mind and heart. Now, KTSV adds, in the 60s and 70s in eastern India, it was noticed that when young people decided to get married, the entire village pitched in. They cleared some portion of the forest and got it ready for jhum cultivation. During the next rainy season, they made a new house of logs and bamboos and presented it to the newlyweds. This custom was common in all the 7 states around Assam. But now everything has changed. The rich do not have the same attitude towards relatives. To help and assist the poor relative is not a priority activity anymore. What was done those days was real annadhanam. Now, people host feast for equals or equally rich people to show what they can do. One-upmanship is the name of the game. In the bargain, a lot of money and materials are wasted. It is a national waste. It is big business running into multiple of crores of rupees. No dharmam involved. No chance for cleansing of hearts and minds. It is done with some ulterior motives. The guest does not much value the fact of being invited, but not in but not being invited is taken as an insult. The host has some access to grind by inviting the guest, So both of them are mutually befooling each other. But when you help a poor to tide over his crisis situation, there is mutual love and gratitude. Only the rich can help others with money. What can the poor do to earn some punyam? You should not think on such lines. We can always extend physical labor. This is the best. Nobody need know. You can go to some poor food track and remove pieces of stones or glasses on the quiet. The right hand should not know what the left hand has given to some needy person. That was the confidentiality maintained. We all feel that we should have God's blessings. It is not enough to simply do wishful thinking. When your mind and heart are cleansed by doing good deeds to others and you mature into a person full of love for all living things, you will be able to see God in all of them and in your mind too. The reflection in a disturbed surface of water will also be unclear. Our minds are disturbed by our narrow perspectives. Devotion to God and serving others will bring the clarity to enable us to see the divine beauty and earn God's blessings. Errors and characters. If you have to live as per the dictates of Dharma, you have to lead a disciplined life. It is very important to tell the people the rules and regulations, but obeying is to be done voluntarily. The best discipline is self imposed. There is no pleasure or pride in enforcing discipline. Enforced discipline cannot become tradition. All the traditional dharmas are such that people have adopted them willingly and are not written down like the acts of law. There is a saying on this Sahasramvada Ekamma Likha, meaning that you may tell by word of mouth thousands of things but do not commit to writing even one word. But nowadays, there are many written do's and don'ts everywhere. Even here in the madam, instructions such as silence, remove your shirts, and so on are written and displayed in a number of places, such as this may not be done, please. When I talk to you like this, find faults with you and give you many do's and don'ts, I am breaking some of the rules of Dharma myself. When I said this may not be done, please, I have given an order. It is a mistake. I should have said it is not correct to give orders. Is it not so? Please think yourself and apply the necessary corrections. That would have been better. Whatever mistake may be there in a person, do not elaborate and dwell on it. But even if he has some good qualities, celebrate it. This is the advice by elders. I am myself publicizing your mistakes, errors, and failures. We should not be dwelling on others' failures, but publicize the good qualities. Look at Lord Shiva. Even a crescent of the moon he wears on his head, giving much importance to its capacity to spread some mild, cool light for the entire world to see. When it comes to the potent power of Alahala poison, he hides it in his throat. This is the way to punish, says a poet by the name of Dhandi. But to find faults and talk and write about that is much on the increase nowadays. More learned you are, more the faults you notice. They claim that to find faults is the job of knowledgeable person or that fault finding is the characteristic of an expert. The Sanskrit proverb Vidwan Doshagnaha means that an expert will be aware of mistakes so as to be able to correct the fault, not someone who will make a big show of his fault finding capabilities. A good automobile mechanic will be able to identify the fault just by hearing the sound of the engine. After identifying the fault, you may gently point out to the person concerned, but You cannot go about endlessly repeating and publicizing the same. If you have no point it out to someone, we have to be above such weaknesses ourselves. If we are full of noticeable faults ourselves, then any advice tendered by us will only be a waste, or it may have the exact opposite effect of letting the offender become more reckless and shameless. We should resort to giving advice only when we are qualified to do so, and our words will be listened to. When you praise some good aspect of someone's good qualities, he may be motivated to behave even better. Even praise has its negative side effect. Your praise of a person may be construed as flattery or make the person too proud. So, if criticism is to be avoided, unless essential, praise is to be sparingly used as it is double edged. That is why it is said that only your Guru and God could be praised directly. Relatives and friends should be praised not on their face, but others should be told about it. Workers should be praised after they have completed the job, as you may give a pat on the shoulders of a horse after getting down from a ride. A son should never be praised. Pratyakshe Guruvah Stutatya Parokshe Mitra Bandhavah Karyante Dasa Brutyacha No Naswa Putra Kadachana. Now, the shloka seems to explain away the charge sheet that I have been reading about your behavior. I am not supposed to praise my own children. I am supposed to rub it in when you make mistakes. So it means that I have only done my duty in pointing your mistakes. Anger. Traditionally, anger and passion are referred to jointly. Passion is desire. Anger includes annoyance, hate, dislike, and disapproval. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says in Gita that these two are mainly the reason for the sins of human beings. When we desire something, we try to attain it. If it cannot be attained by fair means, we try to gain it by hook or crook. Thus, desire becomes passion, uncaring for morality. This pushes us into sin. Similarly, other enemy is anger. If the thing desired is difficult to obtain, we get annoyed with the hurdles in our path. Thus, unfulfilled desire becomes anger. We throw a rubber ball against a wall. It comes back to us. The ball thrown is kamam or desire. When it bounces back, it becomes krodham or anger. Like a boomerang, it comes back with renewed vigor. Exactly similarly, though we may think that we are attracting someone else, it attracts the attacker the most. When we are annoyed, fuming with anger, our own blood pressure shoots up. Anger agitates the mind and body. Actually, if somebody can take our photograph when we are angered, we will be ashamed to see how horrible we present ourselves. When we are angry, we end up saying things that we ourselves will regret later. In rage, we lose control over our body, mind, and senses. Then some people make it a habit to cultivate this aberration of behavior like a smoldering volcano for whatever reasons or absence of reason. Normally, if you feed people and animals when they are hungry, temporarily the hunger is satisfied till the next time for feed. But fire burns more with every addition of input. Greater the feed, greater the fire, greater its reach. It even burns things not meant to be touched. The things not burnt become charred black. Thus, fire is known as Krishna Vartama, the blackener. Desire is like that. The more you feed, greater its intensity. It blackens the mind and heart of the person affected. You can neither satisfy by feeding as desire will grow more and more, nor by denying as desire denied becomes passion. When one desire is fulfilled, there is a temporary sense of achievement and happiness. Soon it gives way to desire of more of the same or something else. In no time, the happiness and satisfaction are replaced by the opposite feelings. Peace of mind is gone, leading to anger and frustration. The unfulfilled desire takes the two forms of sadness and anger. If the person, presumably the cause of our frustration, is lower ranking in the social order or age, we show anger. If they are senior or superior, then it becomes cause for sadness and despondency. The negative power of anger is much more than that of desire. This is very nicely depicted by the Sanskrit drama Naishadam, which describes the life of Nalabhram Maharaja. The king of Kali comes forth. His two ministers are Kaman and Krodhan, that is, desire and anger. The announcer is singing their praise. What does he say about Krodhan? There is no place where Kaman cannot enter, but there is one fort where even he is not permitted. There, this Krodhan is dwelling. Do you know as to which fort it is? It is the heart of Durvasa Rishi. Thus he sings the praise of anger. Durvasa Rishi was famous as a person who had never succumbed to desires, but whose anger was well known for being monumental and colossal. We have to guard against this horrendous anger. A little introspection will reveal that we have no right to get annoyed with anybody because we are not so faultless either. Heart to heart, we know that we have possibly done worse blunders ourselves in our life, or even if we have not done so, in a similar situation, we may have done no better. Anger is the greatest enemy. We must give no quarters for him to come anywhere near. What right do we have to get angry? There are many occasions when we get angry, especially in two ways. When somebody does something wrong, we get angry with him, or when someone else curses or criticizes us. A careful analysis will reveal that we have no business to get annoyed with anyone on both these two occasions mentioned above. When someone does something wrong and we get annoyed, does it mean that we are faultless? When we call someone a sinner, we should ask ourselves as to whether we have committed the same sin or not. If not in action, we might have done the same thing by our mind. We are sinning all the time. There may be some who are committing more mistakes or sins knowingly or unknowingly. We might have evolved to some extent. Maybe because of that, we may not be committing those errors. Maybe his mind is not matured enough to avoid those errors. Let us think about how we had to preserve to correct ourselves. How we had to persevere to correct ourselves. For him, it may be equally difficult to retrace his steps. We may not much cherish his company. All Shastras very clearly delineate that we should seek the company of people who would enable us to progress further on the path of self realization. But we do not have to look down on or hate people who are not fortunate enough. There is no logic in getting annoyed either. The only thing we can do is to pray for him that he may be enabled to return to the right path. If by God's grace, if any one of us has the power to influence, it should be used to salvage such sinners. Our anger will not change the other. it will result only in his getting angry with us. This will lead to escalation of mutual hate. Instead of making people realize their mistakes on their own to ensure discipline out of fear of anger is nothing to be proud of. Neither such discipline will last long. To cause changes in others through love is best. Such a change will be permanent. For anyone to commit a sin, his mind and environment both are the immediate causes. Maybe we were fortunate enough not to be exposed to such temptation or never given opportunities to go astray. So, our prayer should be, My dear mother, I could have been that sinner. You saved me from falling prey to such temptations by never giving me chances to deviate from the right path. Give him the same blessings, mother. Secondly, we need not get angry when someone hates us. We know how detestable we are. Maybe that the other person is criticizing us for a fault not committed by us. That is all right. We know heart to heart our errors of commission and omission were even worse. Every day we should be crying to Mother to save us from ourselves. What business do we have to find fault with others? If we are faultless, sinless, and beyond blame, can we then criticize others? Can we then get angry with others? Actually, when we become so faultless, we will become an embodiment of pure love. When that happens, our attitude towards others will be unconditional, universal love. There will be no place for anger in such a mind. Then you will know that everything is only God's play. In such game playing, whom to praise and whom to punish, looking as it from whatever angle, there is no scope for anger whatsoever. Sri Krishna Paramatma says that desire and anger are two mighty powers capable of submerging the human beings to the lowest depths. By our anger, we harm ourselves. Mostly the other party, whosoever they may be, ignore your anger. So, by being angry, the only effect is that we hurt our mind and body, and that is not being natural. Our natural being is one of happiness, nay, not one of happiness, but it is happiness itself. Happy and kind is the natural dharma of being human. Love is our real nature, that is anandam to us and others. The Tamil word for love, unconditional, love without passion, love unbounded by time and space is Anbu, that is divinity, that is Shivam. We should all endeavor to settle in our natural state of Anbe Shivam. Love and suffering. The purpose of taking birth as a human being is to love. The bliss of love cannot be matched by any other kind of happiness. There is some satisfaction in earning money, in collecting materials, in getting name and fame, in dressing, pruning, and decorating oneself. But these things do not give a wholesome feeling of satisfaction, but a transient sense of elation. In true love, the holistic happiness that we feel and experience is unmatched by any other means. When you love, you do not care as to how much is the expenditure. You do not bother about whatever the physical strain. The satisfaction derived out of love seems to compensate for whatever the pain in the undertaking. Life without love is a waste. I said that we are not aware of the pain when we love, but the very thing we love gives us the greatest sorrow one day. We love someone, finally, that person goes away, leaving us forever, or we ourselves go away. Then, either way, we suffer intensely. all the happiness and exactly that we fell out of our love for that person turns into agony and pain. We get vexed with the feeling that the end result of love is only pain and sorrow. Greater the intensity of our love, greater is the intensity of resultant agony. Sometimes we even wonder if it is futile to have loved and lost. Maybe it is better not to have loved others at all. Maybe it is better to have been a selfish pragmatist. Maybe life as a piece of wood is better. At the least, we could have avoided this pain of separation. But the cynical and selfish realist has only added to his Sachita karma or accumulated bag of sins. Sanchita karma or accumulated bag of sins. Having been born as a human, it is futile to lead a life of a jadam, like a piece of stone or dead wood, without happiness and satisfaction. So, there is a quandary. If you love, it ends in sorrow. If you do not love, life is a meaningless and tasteless waste. So, what should we do? The only way is to develop the permanent, everlasting, infinite love. If we can develop love for something which will never leave us, then we have solved the problem. If there is something like that and we can develop love towards that, then only happiness without separation can be the result. That is, the permanent, non changing entity of God or Paramatma, that is the supreme reality, not bounded by time and space, because there is no time that he is not and no place where he is not. Our love for him will not end in sorrow, now or ever, here or anywhere, while we are living or while dropping this body. Thus, we will know permanent, total, and everlasting love. If we have to love God, should we not love others? After all the others are only temporary. When our love for God develops and matures, it will lead us to the understanding that all are His various forms only. Then the love for people will be revealed to be the love of God only, because we will see everyone as an embodiment of God. The whole world should be seen as God and loved. Thus, we can completely annul the chances for pain and sadness. Even if we cannot see everyone as God and love them, we can look at elders, leaders, teachers, gurus, saints, and rishis who are obviously good and excellent human beings, whom we can think of as an embodiment of God and surrender ourselves. God will bless us through them. Even if that person dies, we will not be subjected to extreme sorrow, as we will know that he or she has only dropped the mortal coil and returned to divinity. Our love will remain as it is. Having started our love towards sadhus and saints, it should be slowly expanded to include all living beings. That is the purpose of this bodily existence. Love. The love seen in this world can be divided into three types. First, we get love towards Mahatmas, Gyanis, saints, and such because they may be able to bless us. Second, we develop love towards our wife and children, friends and relatives because of ownership and the fact that we feel closer to them. Third, we love some to be able to get some personal benefit from them, such as the love towards our boss who pays our salaries or a wealthy man who may be useful to us. All these three types of love are not permanent. If the boss dismisses you, your love for him will also disappear immediately. The love for friends and relatives too will vanish when they vanish. Think of your old friends who are no more or with whom you have lost contact. First time when we were separated, we may feel the separation intensely. With time, that is also forgotten. Out of sight is out of mind, says the proverb. If it was true love, this cannot be so, is it not? Even the love towards Mahatmas is not true. The moment that great person is found to be not so great, your love reduces instantly. The reason for this is that all these three varieties of love have come into being for some personal gain. Even with a great Mahatma, we may have initially appreciated their noble or human qualities. With that, there is an inner expectation that he or she may be able to raise us to their level. But the real love is one without any ulterior motive. True love is unconditional. If we can love someone without personally interacting with them, without any expectation of personal benefit, that is true love. Has someone got that sort of love? God is the only one with that sort of love. God's love for us is unconditional. If we were one to look for returns, we will not get even a square meal. Despite all our mistakes and errors of omission and commission, if we are able to survive in this world, it is only due to His ineffable love and grace. All the love we come across in this world are only mutations of that love of God. We should also practice that unconditional love of Parameshwara. Why should we hate someone for the reasons of his errors? Do we hate ourselves when we do mistakes? We cannot have different yardsticks. It is nothing great to love and respect Mahatmas and Swamijis. Can you have the same love towards the scoundrels and scalwags? Actually, they deserve our love more. They do mistakes like us only. Maybe that we have reformed ourselves slightly. We should wish to help them to reform. Those who have the power by the grace of God should think of using it to help others and save them from going astray. To start with, try and develop love towards someone for no rhyme or logic, but love for the sake of love. That itself will transmute us into an embodiment of love. Then we will be a source of love for others. We are required to have this sort of love towards our guru or preceptor. The love towards one's guru or teacher is required to be unconditional without looking for any returns. Slowly, that love should be directed towards the whole world as our guru. Unconditional love should be directed towards all living beings equally. Fill the world with love, that is Anandam, that is totality, that is Shanti. Om Shri Mahaperiva Sharanam.